Hello everyone, this is Farid Khan and this is the first episode of Unpopular Opinions on Zalmi TV. In this episode, I have two very special guests with me, Aatif Nawaz, who is a BBC Sport commentator from London, and I have Adam Bell with me all the way from Hamilton in New Zealand. How are you doing, guys?
Very well, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, man. Very well.
Pakistan played New Zealand in the second match of the tri-series today, and Pakistan won comprehensively, I would say, by 6 wickets. What were your thoughts, Adam, on the win today, and how did New Zealand fare according to you?
I think just not enough runs at the bat. Pretty much simple answer. 146 runs on that pitch at Christchurch just wasn't enough. I think New Zealand just struggled to really get going in their innings, apart from a little bit of a brief flurry from Finnan at the start, and then a little bit of a cameo from Mark Chapman, really because Nawaz bowled a few bad deliveries in that over. Apart from that, New Zealand innings never really got going, and I think when they look back on it, I think the partnership between Conway and Williamson just didn't accelerate the run rate quick enough, and I think it put a lot of pressure on the lower order of New Zealand, and New Zealand just couldn't capitalise. I also think you got to credit Pakistan's pace bowlers as well. I mean, they bowled absolutely superbly. I mean, that over by Rauf was something really, really special, and I think outside that Nawaz over, Pakistan bowlers were superb, and I think it's been reported everywhere that there were no balls and no wides bowled, from the Pakistan bowlers. Incredible stuff. So it was a poor performance by New Zealand with the bat, but I think we've also got to say that the bowling from Pakistan was superb, and especially considering that Dahani and Mohammad aren't necessarily first choice starters for the Pakistan 11.
Okay, Atif, as Adam talked about Pakistan's death bowling, Pakistan only conceded 22 runs from the last 4 overs. Rauf obviously bowled there as well. In the absence of Shaheen, he has been spearheading the pace attack.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. I mean, Rauf, I mean, like in Urdu, you would say Qable Tarif, right? Outstanding for such a long time. He took over that mantle of leading that pace attack while Shaheen's been injured, as you said, and he's just really taken that responsibility. Like, it's not uncommon to see bowlers put in a sequence of strong performances, but it's very rare to see a bowler put in, a sequence of performances that don't just elevate him in the rankings or elevate him as a bowler. They elevate his general gravitas. He's now considered amongst the very best death bowlers in the world, and he's always been very talented. It's not like he's done something that we didn't think he was capable of. But the consistency, bear in mind, Pakistan play an absurd amount of T20 cricket, way more than anybody else in the world. The consistency he's managed to put in that phase of the innings and the genuine aura that he's managed to build is phenomenal. And of course, he wasn't alone. And, like Adam said, that it was a very threatening partnership between Devon Conway and Kane Williamson. You got to credit Mohammad Nawaz, like in consecutive overs, getting both those wickets. He's just been such a valuable addition for Pakistan as well. And he's sort of one of those bowlers you can throw in at any phase of the innings. You want to go up top, you want to start with him, you want to push him through middle of the power play, you want to bowl him towards the death. He's just that versatile option that any captain is really grateful for, and Babar is really benefiting from right now.
Okay, Adam, we see the stats and numbers of New Zealand and Pakistan. We see their power play numbers. They're very similar. Today, New Zealand scored 42, Pakistan scored 44. Tell me about the partnership that Conway and Williamson had when you know that you're up against a team which has brilliant numbers in the death. Don't you think New Zealand, missed a trick? They could have sent another batter at number 3, or maybe more intent from Conway and Williamson when they were batting out there?
Yeah, look, that's an absolutely fair call. I don't think the partnership was necessarily the problem, or the two batsmen at the crease together. I think they just didn't accelerate quick enough. And I think they got themselves bogged down a little bit. Kane Williamson at one point was under a run of ball. Conway was only just over a run of ball. So I think they got themselves bogged down a little bit. And as you said, Pakistan's death bowling is so strong. And if you don't capitalise up top, you leave yourself in a position where you've got to be scoring against quality death bowlers. And we always talk about, big hits, and we also talk about sixes and T20 cricket, but it's also all about taking wickets. And that's where Pakistan have got such an advantage with their bowling on it. All bowlers are capable of constantly taking wickets. And I think this game kind of showed that. Having bowlers who are threatening, bowlers that can take wickets, is valuable in T20 cricket. And I think with New Zealand, they didn't really think about Pakistan's death bowling. I think they got themselves in a position of going through very traditional approach of keeping wickets in hand. But then new batsmen have got to come out and try to score runs against good quality bowlers, and it's not that easy to do. I don't care who you are. It's not easy to hit the great bowlers out of the park for six on a regular basis. And I think looking at the New Zealand side going forward, I think it's something that they're going to have to address.
Atif, this show is Unpopular Opinions, but there have been a lot of opinions about our middle order already. And we saw today Shadab came into bat for the first time in his T20 international career at number 4, and Nawaz batted at number 5.
I like the idea of having that flexibility there. So we saw this work very effectively a few times for Pakistan when they've promoted Nawaz and Shadab in the past, and it's been effective. They don't do it very often, but I'd like to see that continuously be flexible based on the scenario. I mean, they were very impressive today, don't get me wrong. And obviously, it's been documented the run that Iftikhar and Hushdil and, Asif Ali and Heather Ali and all these guys in the middle order, they've had a very tough time. But I think, you've got to base your long-term strategy on more than just one game, particularly a game where you're chasing and you have the advantage, the conditional advantage. And there is a conditional advantage. I mean, people think batting second is only an advantage in the UAE or in like South Asia, but this is nonsense, right? In modern T20 cricket, everything is chaseable now, right? The whole template of the game is completely changed. So any team that's chasing has the advantage of knowing exactly how they have to structure their run chase. And as we saw in New Zealand today, it's very hard to know when you're batting first what is a good score. You're never really sure. You don't know how hard you're supposed to go. You try and set an expectation and work around it, but you're only really guessing. Even sort of historical data like the average T20 total on this surface, like that's all been rendered almost useless based on the way the game has evolved in the last few years. So I think batting second is a huge advantage for Pakistan, and it was a very impressive performance from Shadab in particular. I thought he's really worked at his game. Years ago he pestered the Islamabad United coaches and management to let him play at number 4, and they talked about still bringing in Colin Ingram as a number 4 just as a backup, but they ended up playing Shadab ahead of Ingram, and Ingram would come in at 5 because he really proved himself. He really stamped his authority on that position of number 4. So I'd be more than happy to see Shadab at number 4. I'd like to just keep expectations realistic though, and not just bombard it. But yeah, it looked kind of nice today, Farid. Did you like the way it looked?
Yeah, obviously 34 of 22 balls, and then we saw Shadab playing at number 5 against Afghanistan, becoming man of the match, and Nawaz coming in at number 4 against India, playing a match-winning innings as well. I guess flexible batting orders is the way to go. But I'll throw this question to Adam now. We talk about matchups a lot. Matchups, in T20 cricket are very important, and we know Shadab was sent up the order to tackle spin at number 4, and Sodhi actually bowled 6 balls to him and conceded 19 runs, a couple of 6s and a 4. Do you think there could have been a better strategy by New Zealand, possibly bowling a bit of pace to Shadab, because Shadab was obviously there to tackle spin, and you bowled Sodhi straight away to him?
Absolutely. I guess the thoughts around that is who would have come on to bowl. I guess with the New Zealand template and how they're trying to play the game is they've obviously got Bolt Selby up front and then they come in at the end. So I guess there's that thought of if you bowl one of your fast bowlers out too early, then you don't have them at the end. But just on Shadab Khan, I mean, I think he's a tremendous player. And I think in T20 cricket, you just need to be a bit more flexible with the bat. And I'm a massive fan. His last season in the PSL, he was a revelation batting at number 4. And, obviously I've seen a lot of tweets since the game's finished, from ex-Pakistani cricketers, one in particular who wasn't a fan of Shadab batting up the order. But I think he's proven himself in the PSL. It's not like it's just on a whim. Nawaz, on the other hand, is a little bit. He's a little bit more of a gamble. But the one thing I like about Shadab Khan, especially when Pakistan get a really good opening partnership, is that he's inventive and he's unorthodox. But he also can hit a big ball. So you've got someone that can manipulate the gaps. You've got someone that plays inventive shots. And as you talked about him against spin, he plays reverse sweeps. He's the dinky little shots that are really good in T20 cricket. And I think you've got the orthodox Rizwan and Babar And you've got someone like Shadab Khan, who's a little bit different, a little bit harder to bowl to. I think he's the great choice to bat in that middle order. You could put someone like a Babar Azam around him as well, and also Kushtal or Haider Ali coming down the order, who's a powerful hitter. So I think Shadab Khan isn't a gamble at all. I think Nawaz is, and I think he showed that today because I don't think he quite got going. I only got 16 off 17 balls. But I think Shadab Khan absolutely talented cricketer, got a great cricket brain as well. As a spinner, so he knows the mindset of spin bowlers. So, I think he's a great option.
Atif, I know I'm throwing all the tricky questions or the unpopular questions towards you. I have another question. There has been a lot of talk about separating Babar and Rizwan from the opening slot. And I also know Babar played at almost 150 today. But do you really think that Babar and Rizwan need to be separated from the opening slot just to get an extra 10-15 runs in the 6 overs?
Yeah, the truth is right. You, me, Adam, everybody in the world can say till the cows come home that maybe we should throw a power hitter in there amongst one of them. One of Babar or Rizwan comes in at number 3 or whatever, and people will debate it forever. But Pakistan have made this commitment to this opening pair. That's the way they want to play. So we can talk about it as much as we want, but they're never going to change that. They seem set on Babar and Rizwan at the top. And everything that sort of goes against that has been documented. So they average something like 46 together in a power play, which I think is the 7th or 8th lowest in, or sort of 8th in the list of fastest power plays in the world, right? Something like that. So everybody knows that is one of the ways they play, but that's the way they choose to play their cricket. They have always identified as a strategy, particularly when they bat first. But when they bat first, it doesn't look as good. When you're chasing, protecting wickets sometimes looks a little bit more astute. But that's the way they've decided to play. They are capable batters as well, and they're exceptionally consistent. I mean, I've seen people point out Rizwan's strike rate, but the guy's scored you 750s in 11 games. Unbelievable consistency. He's sitting above batters like Surya Kumar Yadav and Babar Azam in the rankings. I mean, that takes a level of consistency. I think even he would accept that his skill level isn't at the same level as someone like a Surya Kumar Yadav or Babar Azam, who are probably sort of more gifted. But Rizwan's hard work and application, his like mindless dedication and consistency to that role is what's put him in this position where he's this much lauded cricketer around the world. I think there's definitely an argument for breaking them up, but there's also an argument for keeping them together. Team management wants them together. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what I'm going to say, does it?
I'll ask the same thing to Adam. Adam, players put a lot of prize on their wickets in test matches and in ODI cricket, but we see T20 matches being lost by a few runs, by 10-15 runs, and not because teams lose all 10 wickets. Do you really think there's a need to accelerate to maybe 50-55 so that it can take the burden off from the middle order and even from the finishers as well?
Look, I think in T20 cricket, it's a real hard balancing act of obviously trying to get off to a good start but not losing too many wickets, because we've seen plenty of examples in T20 cricket over the years of teams losing 3 or 4 wickets in the first 6 overs in the power play, and the game's over. So obviously you've got to be a little bit more mindful. I don't subscribe to the necessary that the crash and bash kind of theory, because we've seen that with plenty of teams fail for them. So I think it's a hard balancing act. I mean, I think the way New Zealand's team is set up at the moment with Finn Allen opening the batting, as he did today, just kind of suits New Zealand's template. That's where he is best suited to bat in the New Zealand team. Devon Conway and Kane Williamson are kind of interchangeable. Both have batted at number 3, both opened in T20 matches before. So I think it really depends on the team. I mean, I think, and also batting conditions as well. I think on a good batting pitch, I think you might see Rizwan and Babar actually step up a little bit. My only criticism of them the other day against Bangladesh was they got off to such a great start, and I thought Rizwan could have maybe just stepped it up a little quicker than what he did. But apart from that, I think, again, it's a balancing act. It's who you've got in the rest of the order. And I think with the Pakistan side, they're also looking at the rest of their batting lineup. I mean, they've had Hafiz and Shoaib Malik, who've both retired over the last year. It's a very inexperienced kind of middle to lower order. And there is probably a sense within those two guys that we've actually got to protect these guys. We've got to get off to a good start. We can't put too much pressure on them. Whereas I think we have other countries around the world who've got experience betting on it, they know that they can go a little bit harder, knowing that they've got depth in the middle to lower order. So I think it depends on lots of different situations, pitch conditions, and team makeups as well.
Okay, Aatif, I had to ask you about the England series as well. So just tell me about your experience of watching England playing in Pakistan after 17 years.
It's been amazing to see that, Matt. It was really, really beautiful for me. I mean, although I'm a lifelong Pakistan cricket fan, like the bulk of my work is around the English cricket team. So I follow that team a lot, obviously, particularly here in England, and I cover almost all of their matches for the BBC. So I'm always like I'm so heavily invested in that team. It really meant a lot to me to watch them go to Pakistan, to have those wonderful experiences. And obviously, there's a lot of analysis about what happened on the pitch, and the match and the series went back and forth. It's wonderful that it was a 7-match series. It felt like it had context all the way through. Got the decider that it deserved. But yeah, I think it was about so much more than what happened on the pitch, man. I think it was just a wonderful. I said the same thing on the BBC. Like, I think it was just really nice for people in England who've never really watched cricket in Pakistan. They might have watched clips of the PSL here or there. They might have heard about the Australia series. They might have heard about so and so going over to Pakistan. But for them to see it with their own eyes and see, like, well, okay, that looks quite nice. And oh, what's that? Is that a giant washing machine? Oh, cool. Like, is that like, oh my God, look at that crowd is full. People are smiling. They've got their cold coffees and their cold, like they're having a wonderful time. They've got these signs and they're supporting the England team. And, they're just so grateful, such wonderful fans. And Karachi and Lahore and all over Pakistan. But it was just this beautiful advert for visiting and playing cricket in Pakistan. It was a beautiful moment, man. I was really, really thrilled when that happened, just to watch it. It was genuinely quite emotional. But yeah, I hope they do it again. And I know they're going to go back for the Test series straight after the World Cup. But I think, we all know that in Pakistan, T20 cricket is, held in high esteem. So it'll be nice to see that kind of series again. Only the second ever 7-match T20 series.
Yeah.
I'm sure you Farid know who the only other one was, right? You're probably the only person in the world who knows. Who were the other two teams? Tell us.
Yeah, obviously Mozambique and Malawi, they played those African countries.
Obviously. Did you hear him say the word obvious? Obviously, it was Mozambique and Malawi. Those two cricket playing giants.
Adam, I'll throw the question to you as well just before we finish it off. New Zealand coming over to Pakistan as well. They'll play in Pakistan after the T20 World Cup, just as England would once again do. So tell me about that. How are you looking forward to that series?
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be fascinating to see how New Zealand goes in Pakistan conditions. I mean, obviously a couple of years ago New Zealand played Pakistan and UAE, but it's different there, and it's also it's not Pakistan's home ground. I know they made it their home ground for years, but it's not the spiritual home ground. Yeah. And there's going to be some great support behind Pakistan. I think they're going to be really tough to beat. In all honesty, I can't see New Zealand getting close to Pakistan over there. I think we're really going to struggle with the spin bowlers. But I think it's been an incredible experience for us in New Zealand. It's had a really good time as well.
Are we finally going to see Ajaz Patel?
Well, look, I think he's probably going to be the one guy that could potentially trouble Pakistan, but he barely plays these days. I mean, I think he did. I don't think he played a Test match after he got that amazing 10.
Yeah. He played one match after that, after the India series. He played just one match.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Aatif and Adam, this is Unpopular Opinions. So before we finish, just a last question. I was actually thinking about fantasy T20 cricket competition, or basically I was thinking of T20 cricket being played a different way, where actually openers only play the first 6 overs, the middle order batter come and play the next 4 or 5 overs, then we have the finishers coming over and just finishing off the game in the 6-7 overs. Do you think in the next like 10-20 years to come, we will see a different version of T20 cricket, much like football, where you have a goalkeeper in goal all the time for the 90 minutes, the left back there, the right back where he should be, the forward playing close to the defenders of the opposition?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's going to be more and more like bizarre and wonderful innovations in the game. Obviously, we've got the 100, we've got the 60, but I actually like the idea of a game where batters have a set number of deliveries they can face.
face.
Like the bowlers do, right? So if a bowler has like a maximum quota of 4 overs, if a batter has a maximum quota of like 22 balls, and then they must retire out, and everybody, that's a very fascinating game. It's not cricket, not quite cricket the way we play right now, but I wouldn't mind watching a 4-day 10 over type series of that between some teams, maybe in the UAE. Yeah, let's do it. Let's give it a go. I'll watch anything.
What about you, Adam? Do you think there should be a separate T20 team as compared to teams which we see in the ODI formats or the test formats? Or do you see the same players playing all 3 formats, or are you in for different players in different formats?
I just think playing 3 formats is going to become unsustainable for most players now. Me and Aatif were talking about Mohammad Rizwan and the amount of cricket he's been played, but he's a real anomaly at the moment. There's not many guys being able to play the 3 formats, and especially the overlap of series. I mean, we saw in England and the English summer where they were playing a Test match, and also there was a one-day series going on in the Netherlands at the same time. So I just don't think it's going to be sustainable, and even coming up this summer in Southern Hemisphere. I mean, look at all the T20 competitions that are starting. I mean, it's hard to keep up, and they're clashing with international tours, and the international calendar is getting so crowded. I just don't see how players can do it anymore. Just on your fantasy cricket and cricket ideas, I just wish that captains would be brave enough to retire batsmen if they're not performing. I would love that innovation to be used more often.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much, Aatif, for joining so early on a weekend from London, obviously, and thank you so much, Adam, for joining this late in the night on a weekend again. Thank you so much once again, both of you.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us, man.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Here you go. This was all from the first episode of Unpopular Opinions on Zalmi TV. This is Farid Khan signing off. Until the next episode.